Hi everyone, it's Matt from The Pen Habit. Glad to be back for another video, and today I am dealing with another pen that was sent to me by Rob to review before I send it on to him, this time from the manufacturer Sailor. One of the things I love about this fountain pen hobby is that almost every time I get a new pen, I just don't know what to expect because I'm so new in the hobby still that I get to try new things and get experiences. And this is a pen that I got to try something I probably never would have tried on my own. Very interesting situation. So the pen for today is the Sailor Professional Gear with the Rhodium Trim, and it's a lovely pen. And so we'll talk about this. This pen came from Classic Fountain Pens, or nibs.com, which is the site for which John Modishaw does a lot, or basically he will do the nib grinding and things like that for any pen you purchase. And so every pen that gets purchased from them gets tested and tweaked and treated and adjusted for your preferences before you buy it. I suspect that made a big difference on this pen, although I don't know. John's work is basically almost universally praised. He's one of the 2 nibmeisters in the United States who will retip nibs. So the guy knows what he's doing. This is the first opportunity I've had to use one of his nibs, as one of the nibs that he's touched as well. So let's dive into the pen. So as is always the case, it comes in a little cardboard sleeve, this blue pen coffin here with the Sailor stamped on top. When you open it up, you get the pen itself, which comes off on the bed. And then there is a Sailor writing instruments brochure, and a couple of Sailor cartridges. But the key to this pen is the pen. That was profound, wasn't it? All right. So the Sailor pen, the Sailor Professional Gear is really quite a lovely pen. It's kind of flat top pen with the Sailor Anchor logo on the top. Rhodium trim with a nice clip, really solidly made clip, nicely plated. It says Sailor, Japan, founded 1911, and it's really quite a lovely pen. Tapers down slightly to another rhodium-plated ring down here, and a flat-bottomed pen. Nicely polished, beautifully finished, really solid-looking pen there. It is a twist-top pen, and the threads are just as smooth as silk, and we all know how much I enjoy good threads. I'm such a nerd sometimes. Beautiful bicolor nib here, and we'll talk about the nib in a little bit. It, like the platinum pens, is a little bit on the flat side across the top of the nib instead of being a little more rounded like the nibs I'm more used to. But it doesn't appear to be as flat as it is on the platinum. It's a cartridge converter pen, and the section has metal threads to the acrylic or the resin threads of the pen. Comes with a Sailor branded converter, and I apologize, the converter is a little wet right now because the pen was cleaned before it was sent to me, and it's filled with ink already. So in terms of design, as is the case with many Japanese pens, this pen is a fairly classic design. There's nothing terribly flashy about it or show-offy or gaudy, and it's a lovely pen. It is a little on the small side for my hands, but still usable unposted, and it does post quite nicely. And this is a pen I actually prefer to use posted because I like that additional length when I'm writing with the pen. So, as I mentioned, this is my first Sailor pen. And this pen has what's known as a Zoom Nib. And I'll show you what that means in a little bit. But a Zoom Nib is a nib that if you hold the pen like this to the paper, you're going to get a very broad line. And the line will gradually decrease in width until you're writing like this, where it's a very fine line. It's actually a very unique nib with a very unique grind. So that was a fun opportunity for me to try one of these as well. And Sailor may be one of the only companies that provides Zoom nibs as a default option. You can get a factory option with a Zoom nib, which is kind of cool. The pen is 18 grams uncapped and 26 grams capped or posted, and this is with the converter and ink in place. The barrel is, or the section is 11.7 millimeters. The barrel is 13.5 millimeters, and the cap at its widest point is 16 millimeters. So this grip is a little wider than my preferred 10 millimeter we've talked about before. So if you've got small hands or like a smaller grip, this grip might be a little bit much for you. The pen is 128 millimeters when it's capped. So capped, it's actually still a fairly short pen, and I discovered sits very nicely in a shirt pocket. So if you're the kind of person who likes to put your pen in a shirt pocket but doesn't want it sticking way over the top of your shirt pocket, this is a good option for you. It is a fairly short 115 millimeters in length, though, uncapped. So when posted, it's 149 and is very nicely balanced. I really like this pen posted quite a bit, and it posts fairly securely. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of writing. I want to show you a bit about this Zoom Nib because this was something I hadn't experienced before, and let you know how it writes. So here we go. This is the Sailor Professional Gear, not to be confused with the Pro Gear 2, which is a different pen. And the other thing that's unique about Sailor pens, or not unique, but kind of one of their trademarks, is that they use 21 karat gold instead of the more common 14 or 18 karat gold on their nibs. So this is a 21 karat gold nib, and it is a Zoom Nib. And the ink for today is Iroshizuku Kujaku. I am still making some good progress on trying to finish up at least one bottle of ink this year, and I've decided Iroshizuku Kujaku is the ink I'm going to empty one bottle, and it's going to be that one. So I've had at least one pen inked with this since the year started. We're on a Rhodia dot pad, as we always are, by the way. All right, our quote for the moment is, all right. So in terms of writing, this pen is, let's talk wetness first. So this pen is, it's a little on the wet side. That was at the request of Rob, who ordered the pen. He said he liked moderate, but a little on the wet side of moderate. I agree with Rob. That's probably my favorite style of ink flow, and this pen matches that just really perfectly. You can see it's wet enough that you get some really nice shading on the downstrokes, even with no pressure, because it's got a wet enough flow. But let me show you. So let's say this is the tip of a Zoom Nib. If you're looking at it, from the bottom of the nib like this, what you'll actually see is kind of a triangle that has been ground into the nib here. And I'm very poor at drawing. This is the nib slit. So if you're writing on the low end of the nib down here, you're going to get a very wide writing surface. But if you write on the tip up here, you're going to get a very narrow writing surface. And I can show you that by showing you this. So this is wide to narrow. So you can see there, it's consistent pressure across. And the reason that Zoom Nibs exist is for a lot of the Japanese or Asian, Oriental Asian calligraphy, where line variation is important. This is a way to get that with a fountain pen without having to use a brush or a dip pen quite as much. It results in some interesting writing for Western style cursive writing, which is what I do, in that because the nib has this almost triangular opening, it's not as smooth as a round nib is going to be, much in the same way that a stub nib or an italic is not going to be quite as smooth. A Zoom Nib is not going to be quite as smooth either. The request from Rob to John was to do his best to smooth it out, or as smooth as possible. And if you use zero pressure, I mean truly zero pressure, just let the weight of the pen do the work. And it's hard to hold this, but I mean, you can see this pen, it starts perfectly. That's something that's very, very hard to achieve on your own if you don't know what you're doing. To get that level, you can write on this with this pen with absolutely zero pressure. And if you do that, it is fairly smooth. If you do put a bit of pressure on it, particularly if you roll the nib at all in either direction, you will feel a little bit more feedback. At no point is it scratchy or even toothy, but it's just a little more feedbacky. Interesting. It's an interesting thing. I would really like to try a Sailor round nib, because if the ink flow on this nib is indicative of what I can expect from a Sailor round nib, I really do suspect I would quite like their nibs quite a bit, especially if I ordered them from nibs.com and got them, adjusted before they came to me. In terms of line variation from flexibility, there's actually a fair bit from this 21 karat gold. Now, I don't want to push it too hard, but you can see keeping the angle consistent. If I wanted more, I could just lower the angle and get basically the same level, or get a finer level. So depending on how you write and what you want to use the pen for, the variability of that nib could actually be really pretty slick. For what I use it for, it's probably not something I would spend money. I probably would not get one of these for myself, but I find it interesting and fun to play around with. It's just for day-to-day writing. I prefer the slightly smoother consistency of a round nib. Upside down writing, it will write upside down. I believe it was actually ground to be able to write upside down, so it writes quite a fine line upside down. Writing directly up, directly vertically with the pen will give you the finest line. But you can see that's writing it almost parallel to the paper, and that's writing it vertically with the paper. You can see the massive difference in line variation there that you can get without flexing the nib at all. So overall, this is a cool pen, and it's a cool nib. I like the nib a lot. Would I get one for myself? Probably not. Not because I don't think it's a good pen. I think it's a great pen. But I don't think I would get one for myself simply because it's a little shorter than what I like to use when I write. And I don't care for the Zoom Nib for daily writing. It's a fun toy to play with for me, but it's not something I would enjoy using on a day-to-day basis. That being said, beautifully made pen, very classic styling. The nib, when it does write quite well, no hard starts, no skipping, beautiful ink flow. It really is quite a lovely pen. So that has been my review of the Sailor Professional Gear with the Rhodium trim as opposed to the gold trim, and with the 21 karat Zoom Nib. If you have any questions or comments, what you use the Zoom Nibs for, etc., please leave them down in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the penhabit.com link in the video description to see the additional photos that I didn't get cut into the video. I've been playing with the new camera that I just got for the last couple videos, so I'm still making some tweaks. So if the video doesn't look quite up to snuff, I apologize. I'll get used to this new camera and its settings and all that fun stuff. But I'm having a good time with playing with my new toys. So that should do it for this video. Again, I appreciate you watching, and we will see you here next time on The Pen Habit. Bye-bye.